Boom.
Boom. Ooh, love it.
Let's do it. Let's drill it.
Boom. And that's all out of order. It's all out of order. We're going to do a little bit different of a Wednesday call. This is going to be, we are going to interview Mr. Josh Phanco right here.
Yeah.
Right here live. And it's going to be the podcast. And at the end, we will open it up and you can ask him questions. He's been around for a while now. Has a lot of insight. He's one of the ambassadors of for Teledudes. So Josh, actually we do an event called Ignite. The first one was, when was that? March? Was back in March. Josh came to the event without even being part of Teledudes. And then he got, I guess, sold on Teledudes from being there. And he was the only one that wasn't on Teledudes. We're like, wait, he's not on Teledudes. What the heck? And then he finally signed up, and then now he is not looking back. So it's pretty cool. And I believe we're going to do another one of those in Huntington Beach. We don't have a date yet. We have a live studio audience today.
Mr. Craig, who do we have today?
Oh, Mr. Josh Phanco from, is it Visalia? Are you Visalia?
No, it's
Fresno.
Close. But it's Fresno and Clovis. We're pretty much the same
Clovis.
thing. Yep.
Clovis. Wasn't there a movie? Clovis Field?
Cloverfield. I think.
Same thing. That's the difference.
Awesome.
So I don't know if I didn't even think about it, but would we do speed breakers?
Yeah. Why don't we do a little speed breakers?
It's like the Brady Bunch here with everybody. Let me be completely unprepared and not have it up. But luckily for notes, you can just search. So, all right, Mr. Josh, are you ready for this round of speed breakers?
Bring it.
All right. Have you ever had a mullet?
Yes, believe it or not.
Yes.
Well, we're done. That's awesome. First crush.
I'm going to say Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years.
You know what? Maybe they're with you. Most embarrassing thing your mom ever caught you doing?
I'm sad to say, but I actually took money from her wallet one day to try to.
Oh, you got busted.
Got caught.
Wow.
I shouldn't say that online.
Yeah, well, she knows. So fastest speed ever driven?
Probably about just over 100. I got nervous and slowed down.
Nice.
Favorite cereal?
Lucky Charms all the way.
Oh, Lucky Charms. How many kids?
I have 3 kids.
Have you made cry? Please wait for the question.
Then 3 daily. Yeah.
3 daily. Perfect.
Yeah.
Good job. Count Chocula or Count Dracula?
I have never had either. I have no idea.
Ooh.
Well, I don't think you can have Count Dracula.
I don't know what that is.
He has you.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought you were on the cereal thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, one is cereal and one's a serial killer, I guess. Fastest mile.
Recently, because I'm a runner, I just hit 6:09.
Nice.
Wow, that's really good, man. You almost hit the 5s.
Getting there. I'm trying to get sub 6 as fast as possible.
Wow. You know what's interesting is none of these questions actually put the units. So it's like fastest mile. Well, driven, flown, it just everybody just answers. So it's favorite flavor.
Favorite flavor. Orange cream, anything.
Yeah, see,
orange cream
everybody
pickle.
picks ice cream on that. It's great.
Mhm.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs. 100%.
That is correct. This interview will continue. Tacos or burritos?
Probably burritos. Slight edge to burritos.
Slight edge, but they're very close. Correct.
Yeah.
Favorite video game?
All-time favorite video game. Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Super Tecmo Bowl because that is the.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I have to strike that. RBI baseball.
Oh,
3. That's my
good.
all-time.
that was
Sorry.
a good. Yeah, that was a good one. And then of course the fun one: Trump or Biden?
In what? Like MMA? Like
yes, sure.
what?
No units.
We'll go Trump in MMA. That's
Yeah,
what
he's
we're
got
doing.
sizes. He's got the size
Yeah.
advantage. I think he's
Yeah.
going to win.
And
Well-
final question, what was the first concert you ever went to? All the way back to Barney.
I've heard you guys ask this to other people, and I have been thinking for a long time. I cannot remember my first concert, but I will tell you, can I just cheat and give you my favorite concert ever?
Yes.
Because I'm not much of
Yes.
a concert guy like everybody else. I like concerts, okay, but they're not a big thing for me. But my favorite concert by far was Dave Matthews at Shoreline Amphitheater in California. That was the most
What year?
incredible experience. I was in college, so it would have been probably
60s.
late 90s, early
Nice.
2000s.
The-
Yeah,
not
probably
the
around
60s.
2000. Yeah. So
That's
it was
awesome.
incredible. It was awesome. Yep.
Late
They are
90s.
good.
I saw Dave Matthews open up for the Dead in Vegas, like in
Okay.
early 90s.
Yeah. No, that's when they were all over it, and he's great. I saw him I've probably seen him the most in different venues. So, but that was an incredible venue. If you've never been to that, you got to go to a concert at Shoreline. Yep.
Yeah.
That's in San Diego, right?
No, it's up north. It's up by
Is
Palo
it-
Alto in near Stanford. In
Is it
Northern
out-
California.
Outside?
Yeah, they built it for the Grateful Dead, so that it was kind of where the Grateful Dead would do most of their
was the
concerts. It's
big-
really
the-
kind of
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
yeah.
Super cool. So take us back from Dave Matthews to now, and how did you get yourself involved in this crazy business?
It's all my wife's fault. I'll just tell you that right now. So I've done a lot of different things, all somewhat around sales and marketing. Essentially, my first job, 14 and a half years old, was a dishwasher in a deli. That to me was awesome. It taught me the discipline of hard work, showing up and doing stuff that nobody else wants to do. So I was a cleanup in a deli and a meat department. So that was awesome. But essentially from college on, I've been in some form of sales and marketing role. I've worked primarily in sports marketing. We have a AAA baseball franchise here in Fresno. So I started out really as my main job there, doing everything from being an accounting clerk to a mascot to selling tickets to selling corporate sponsorships and promotions at the stadium, and then have done a variety of different roles for a couple of different sports teams and things here in the area. But my wife actually worked for Allstate Insurance and Claims for about 14 years, and that was like her first job out of college. And her real job, and she did that for a long time, and she ended up managing a claims unit for a long time. And then through a set of circumstances and things in our own life, as they were kind of consolidating some claims offices, she transitioned out of the insurance business and started doing some other things. We adopted a little boy from Haiti, and so she spent probably a couple of years at home with him, and then realized she didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. So we started talking about what to do for her. So because of her background with Allstate and in the insurance business, she started kicking some tires, and through some relationships, we got in touch with not really a recruiter, but a sales leader that she used to work with. And before long, we started talking about possibility of her getting into the insurance business as an agent. Well, she had never done sales and marketing, so quickly transitioned into, well, I would love to do that, but I'm not ready to do it. So we started talking more about doing it together. So my wife and I launched our agency about 2.5 years ago. So with my experience in sales and marketing, her experience on the back end and managing a team and claims and all that, we thought it would be great to work together.
And did you start scratch? No
We
premium?
started scratch, no premium.
How was that?
I've done it before in other sales jobs. So I've created a book of business. So for me, it wasn't necessarily scary to do that. I actually preferred that model versus trying to buy a book. But yeah, I mean, it's incredibly nerve-wracking and stressful and really, really difficult financially, considering neither one of us have an income, so
Yeah.
that was difficult, but we've slowly and surely been growing it. So
Your wife brought industry knowledge, but was it a pretty steep learning curve? The other
Absolutely.
side? Yeah.
Yeah. The insurance part of it for me, just like anything, I've been in sales long enough. It's all about learning your product and what it is. And thankfully, insurance is one of those things where you have it. So you kind of know the auto side of it a little bit. And I've been a little bit in the mortgage business, so I kind of knew the homeowners policy, insurance side. So for me, the learning curve was fine. I mean, doing all the licensing and everything was a challenge, but fortunately I got through it all pretty quick, and it's kind of come naturally to me. I really enjoy the insurance business. I love how it can help everybody. There's not a single person. I always tell people I can walk into a coffee shop and every single person there is a prospective, customer or somebody that will benefit from what I'm doing. I've been in sales jobs before where you're selling to a very, very small group of people. So for me, insurance is great because there's nobody I can't help. in some shape or, some form or fashion. So.
Love it, dude. How was it to go to, not to go backwards, but I guess to go back? How was it? Talk about the adoption. That must have been crazy.
Yeah, that was a long process. So we started back in 2013. My wife and I and our church was looking at starting I guess a partnership with a mission or with an organization down in Haiti. So we went down there and did a little mission trip just to kind of see if it would make sense for our church to be involved with this organization. And we had always talked about the possibility of adopting, but I would say within about 3 hours of being there on the ground and serving this orphanage for a week, we realized right then that was something we definitely wanted to do for our family. So we started the process, and about 4.5 years later, we ended up bringing our son TK home with us. So he was, so by the time we brought him home, he was just about 5 years old, but it was about a 4.5 year process. So we made multiple trips back and forth to Haiti, and it was a great experience. We've got 2 biological children that are older, and they got to join us with it. It was incredible. It was a life transforming event. And part of the reason we're even doing what we're doing now, because we wouldn't be doing this if we hadn't gone down that journey, because it kind of forced us to pull back a little bit, really figure out what we wanted to do long-term and what kind of legacy we wanted to create for our family. And so having that extra time, my wife being at home with him really forced us, to kind of evaluate what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives.
Love it. And I knew that had a correlation too, because it's, I don't know if I could work with my wife, but I know you guys work well together. We had those conversations. So I figured that probably was the something that strengthened your work relationship as well, because that
I wouldn't necessarily recommend, they always say don't do certain things together, like moving, having a funeral, a wedding, or changing jobs in the same year. We were kind of pretty much doing everything all at one time. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but sometimes you got to be in the fire, to really figure out what matters. So that's exactly what I think came out of it.
Yeah, well, it can be a lot doing all those things, but if you make it through, then I think it solidifies, the foundation. Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say? I know that there are other agents out there that work with a spouse. She brought a lot to the table. Yeah. You did too. What are some tips that you can give some people working with spouse, or, I guess kids, whatever, would be kind of similar?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, first thing I would say is if anybody's thinking about doing it, one of the things we were really careful to do is we went out and reached out to other people that were doing it. So we have quite a few friends that are husband-wife teams. A lot of them are in real estate. We have a couple that they run a distribution company for a water purification system, and they've worked together for a few years. And so first bit of advice was talk to other people that are doing it, figure out what kind of, things that they've, people that you trust, people that that will be honest about you, people that know you enough to know if you truly should be working together or not, somebody that'll give you that feedback. We kept hearing, oh, you guys will do great. They've seen us work together. So whether it's through church or just through life, people had seen us work together, and they knew that we would be able to figure it out. Even if we were butting heads on something, they knew we'd be able to figure it out. So that was good to have that feedback early on, that validation. But I guess the biggest thing that I would say is a couple of things. One, stay humble. Don't come into it thinking that you got all the answers. I guess it's the same advice I'd give to anybody about marriage. Just stay humble, show up every day, knowing that, some days you're going to have it, some days you aren't. Some days the other person's going to have it, some days they aren't. And just know that you're in it together. You have the same goals, the same purpose. So let the little things go as much as possible. And then, over time, you'll figure out what your lane is. Stay in your lane. It's pretty easy for me to want to take over every aspect of everything. I just kind of have that personality. I love solving problems. I love being in the action. And I had to learn, it took me probably longer than it did for her to learn that, but I had to just start realizing there's certain things I have no right to be involved with, and I need to trust her to do that. And just, we just learned. And then for her, I've been in sales a long time. It took her probably a long time to trust my ability in sales, even though, I've done well over the years in different capacities and different sales things. She finally got to see it. And for somebody that's not a salesperson, she never really got it. She never understood why I did certain things. And so for her, it was really just a matter of seeing it in action and understanding the sales process and trusting me to take her through that process. And so, so stay humble, stay in your lane, and, just trust each other that, you're going to be able to get through it. So,
well, she had to be somewhat weary because you did sell her on the idea of marrying you.
yes.
So,
and if you know me, that's a giant sales job right there.
Right.
I mean,
No.
come on.
No, and but in all seriousness, I love the advice of, checking that ego is so challenging because and it's a balance, right? You have to have some ego to be able to push through and get through some of these difficult times, but then you need to be humble and check that ego and you don't need to always be right.
Yeah. Well, it was hard too, because, I don't know how it is for other agents out there, independents and other people that were other captives, but, for us, as with the carrier that we're with, there's, we can't be a husband-wife team the way that we're presented. It's me. My face is on everything. If you go to our website, it's my face. And, she just kind of naturally just came up underneath that and said, hey, you need to be the guy. It's your thing. But I look at it as we're both in this, it's our company. We're partners in this. But so it was kind of easy for me to start just taking on more than I should and acting like it's all mine. But I had to go back and constantly check myself and go, nope, this is us. And it's not even just us. That's how we try to manage our whole office. It's not just even the two of us. It's our team. We are a team, and we're going to make this work together. So it's about making sure you're always coming back to that. What are we in this for? What are we trying to accomplish? Everybody knows their roles, and just get to it.
Clear communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
How important has that been? I think that, agents can maybe even sometimes doubt themselves and not want to communicate. And then you can kind of run and hide and maybe not go through all the stuff, but you're the leader. And I think communication it's so important, right? To be clear on everything. And how important has that been in your agency?
Man, I don't know if there's anything more important, to be honest. Communication is key. On all levels. Communication with clients. That's what sales is to me. It's just being able to properly communicate with people, understanding what they need, what you have to offer, figuring out that gap and bringing that all together. But for a team perspective and running an agency, that's probably the worst thing that I've been at. I kind of pride myself on my ability to talk to people and socialize and all that kind of stuff. But I was, first year and a half, as I kind of expressed with you guys when we went to Ignite, I had to look at myself in the mirror and realize that a lot of our problems were just me not communicating properly with our team, not creating proper expectations, not letting them know what I was holding and what I was struggling with, and not, I have all these expectations of them and what they're supposed to be doing, but I'm not even communicating. It's all up here. And then I'm frustrated and we're not getting anywhere, and I'm making all these decisions and they don't know why. Once I start having real open communication with everybody, they're like, oh yeah, sure, we can do that. So I think communication is absolutely vital, and just, it doesn't have to be perfect communication, but just talk, work it out, have that dialogue both ways. If something's not connecting, if people aren't with you, or if they're just kind of saying, they're probably not really with you. So you got to get that buy-in and make sure that they fully understand what you're trying to communicate. So you're right on about that.
I love that concept in it's in the peak performance, but looking in the mirror, and if it's not working, it falls on the owner, right? Like it's very easy to blame everybody else, and everybody, across the board in life, not just in business, people want to point the finger at the others. But if something's not working, the only one that can really fix it is the dude in the mirror, or the dude in the mirror. And that's hard to own sometimes.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, that was the first thing I think you had us all go around at the table and introduce, why were we there? Why were we at Ignite? Again, I wasn't even a part of Teledudes at the time. I followed you guys on the podcast and listened to a lot of the stuff and got a lot of value out of that. I had a couple of other agents that encouraged me to go and do this thing. Spent some money to fly out there and hang out with you guys and take 2 days out of the agency. And granted, I was the only guy really making all the sales in our agency at the time. So that was a big commitment. But I remember distinctly when you guys told us to be prepared to talk about why we were there and what we were looking to get out of that. And we went around the table, and, I just had to, like you said, I had to look in the mirror, and I told you guys that, look, I'm a great sales agent. I feel like really confident. I can do the insurance business. I can sell a lot of policies. I can do that all day long. I'm not a very good agent or an owner. And that's why I wanted to go to Ignite, is I wanted to learn from you guys and from other agents how to actually properly run an agency. And man, that was game changing for me right there. Even just admitting that was a huge thing.
Yeah,
so
it is. And it's wanting to do everything and controlling the show and being the best salesperson and all of that. It's just not scalable. Right. You can't scale that business.
Nope.
So, I was there too.
I would say too, it's not as rewarding. Like it's super rewarding when you can transfer these like superpowers to people that have never done sales or anything like that. And you start training and then you see them grow and it's like, wow, that's huge. I mean, that was one of my eye-opening moments in the agency was when I kind of looked at it. I was like, wait a minute. I don't want to be doing all this. I want to be training people to do it and see them.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That's a great point. I think you're 100% right on about that. I mean, there's nothing like watching other people be successful and to be able to do it. And I mean, it's like coaching, right? I mean, I coach my son's little league team. And I know how to play baseball. I played it my whole life, but I can't get joy out of going out there and beating up on these little kids, and hey, look how great I am. No, it's nothing like taking a kid that doesn't know what's going on and show them something and then they figure it out. Man, I get more joy out of that than I ever did hitting a double or anything like that. It's so much better. So I think you're 100% right about that. Same feeling is what I've been experiencing in these last few months, watching our team really start seeing, like getting their legs up underneath them and feeling confident and understanding what they can do and realizing their full potential. So,
and your sales have been incredibly much greater since then, right?
Yes, consistently. Yeah, we've had some bits of success before, but again, it was primarily me, or maybe we had one other seller that had a good run a little bit. But yeah, consistency wise, absolutely. I mean, and what's funny, it was even before I kind of actually signed up for Teledudes and actually got the system in place. Just the mindset of like, I need to start really running my agency differently. And just some of the things that you guys shared a lot about when we were Ignite, just putting some of those things into practice in our agency immediately yielded results long before we even got our systems in place to support, the nuts and bolts of how to sell insurance. So yeah, we've been climbing. We're knocking down our goals. We're kind of a smaller agency still. We haven't been able to scale it yet the way that I'd like, but we're heading in the right direction and the train's going the right way. And we know this is the direction that we're gonna continue to go. And we know we're gonna have success. It's just now a matter of how quickly we can get there.
Well, I guess from the scratch perspective and from the scratch perspective, what would you do differently now? Rather like the way you approached it then and now with everything you've learned, how would you approach it differently?
There's a lot of things. I mean, we just kind of jumped into it. Maybe I was a little overconfident in our ability to get sales going right away. Again, having started scratch in other businesses and sales, I felt pretty confident in my ability to just make it happen. So I would say probably, maybe spend a little bit more time on the front end, really planning out like where you're going to get your business from and putting a really good system in place. We come from a community that it's a larger community, but it's still very kind of small town mentality. And so I kind of relied too heavily on my own network as my basis for building our business. And that's kind of how they tell you, it's like, hey, go to the people that you know the best and they'll buy from you. I was shocked at how many people I thought that would come immediately and buy insurance from me. How many people wouldn't even answer my call. I mean, people I thought were my best friends, right? So I think for anybody that's really interested in getting in this business, starting from scratch, build up a business model that has nothing to do with your network. Your network should be like your gravy. It should be the extra. It should be the bonus, the cherry on the top. But if you can't do this business going out there and getting it from people that know nothing about you and could care less who you are, then you may want to reconsider it until you can figure out that model. So that would be my number one point of advice. Yeah.
Can you imagine if somebody started a McDonald's and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to start, I'm going to invite my family. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They better be able to eat a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Creating that measurable the whole process where you can measure stuff. How much has that changed the game? Did you come in thinking that? Like, I know that you just spoke on, what you were told, but what was in your mind coming into it about how you would develop your business and scale, or was scaling just not even something you were thinking of?
I mean, it's something we were thinking about, but I didn't have an actual understanding of what that looks like in this business, of actually how to scale. I guess in all the other sales jobs I've ever had, I've just been a sales guy, go out, build your book. I wasn't, necessarily responsible for everybody else's growth in the overall business. So I understand it in general, like what we're trying to do, but actually doing it in the insurance model was I was kind of learning on the fly. I had an idea. It's kind of like I kind of equate it to like being in college. When you go to business school, they kind of teach you what business is supposed to look like, but then you get out in the real world and it's something
Right.
entirely different. So I had a pretty good idea of what it was supposed to look like, but once I got into it, you just get hit from 100 different directions, and the reality of, oh my gosh, we haven't made a sale in 3 days, and then you start panicking, and then you're just putting out fires everywhere, and then you got calls that you don't even know how to sell that because you've never sold it before. So even if I would have fully understood how to measure it and track it, I don't know if I gave myself enough time to actually do it. I wasn't spending enough time doing that. I was just selling and just trying to like survive daily. And I think that's where, I had all the best intentions of spending some time on a Saturday or evenings of really focusing in on that stuff. But you just get thrown into the fire and you just start running and you go, and all that stuff goes out the window. And before long, it's, 6 months, a year, and you haven't spent any time looking at the business. You're just in the business, yeah. So,
well, the business can end up running you if you're taking 100%. On everything that needs to be taken care of and learning all the things that need to be learned, right? It's so overwhelming. There's so many things, and anybody could walk in the door and be busy, but are you busy with the stuff that you should be busy with?
Yeah, and that's where I think I made the biggest mistake early on again, and that's going to be a theme in anything you ask me about. It's just how many mistakes I made at the beginning. But just getting busy and just letting that stuff go too early, just not staying disciplined to go, nope, time out. Even if I have to walk away from a few sales now to make sure that I'm putting things in place into our agency to be successful in the long run, I've got to do that right now. So, you've got to stay true to those things. You've got to, make sure that you commit to those things on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever it is. Just stay focused in on what you have to do to make sure the agency is going down the right path that you want it to.
What would some tips that you would give somebody that feels like they're wearing every hat, working 12-hour days, and wants to transition, but feels like, hey, man, I'm packed with 12-hour days. There's no way I can do anything. I can't train someone to do that or whatever.
Yeah, I would say, well, okay, maybe you're right, but probably more often, if it's like me, most of that stuff's not true. You just have to do it. And there's no way around it. I mean, do you want to continue to work that way the rest of your life, or do you want to find a better way? So you either have to decide to do it, or you just, and most of the time I found that that's not true. Those are just voices in your head that tell you that's what it's going to be, that nobody will ever be able to do it as good as you. I'll never be able to get, if I just get these things done, then I can sit back and focus on the business. No, it's never going to happen. There's always going to be another project or something else that comes up that's going to take your time. So you're better off walking away from a few sales if that's what it takes to make sure that you stay, on task with the things that you have to do as an agency owner. So don't believe all those voices in your head. And you just have to try it. You have to try a different way. If it's not working for you one way, doing it that way, you have to try something different. Otherwise, you're just delaying the inevitable, and which is going to be either a mediocre agency. Maybe you'll have some success, but it's never going to be as successful as it could be if you did it the right way.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about that. The questions that Jason asked with the time, it's the time machine question. You get in the DeLorean, you go back to the day you opened, and today's self tells that guy, hey, you need to do it this way. Well, I don't know that you, even if you had that knowledge, that you'd be able to execute the same way as if you didn't go through and fail through that process, right? You learn
Yeah.
so much from going for it and messing up, so much more from that experience. And it's tough to come and actually execute on a plan without having that experience.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think sometimes you have to feel the pain to understand why it's so important to stay with it. It's like the idea of, as a kid, you got to let them kind of touch the stove. Otherwise, you've got to be there every time telling your kid not to touch the stove. Well, they do it once, they burn themselves. Guess what? They remember that the next time, they'll never touch it again. And so
Right.
you have to experience that pain. And I think, Craig, like you're talking about, it's, that's sometimes what ends up being my compass in the morning is like, I don't want to feel that anymore. I don't want to feel, I don't want to go another week, having to be the only guy in our office selling. I want to create a system that enables everybody else to have the success so that I can step away for a couple of days, or I can be off my game for a day and we still are achieving our goals. So, but if I didn't have that pain, it probably wouldn't resonate. And I'd keep leaning back in on my own abilities and my own ego and all that stuff. So yeah, you got to experience it for sure.
Yeah. I'm a huge, strong believer in whatever business that anybody sets up. You have to set it up with the thought of you not being a cog in the system. Like you got to set it up to where anybody can, that you set up a system that every role can be filled by somebody else. Now you can jump in and do stuff, but if you're the one that has to do it, like you're the main person, you can never truly get to that point where you're running it. Because to your point, there's always stuff like there's 10 fires that, will show up later and, but you had plans to do this one thing and then you have to do the fires. It's like, there's never a way to play catch up unless there's a system where it runs without you so that you can go above it and be able to pull the right levers and look for that future.
Yeah. And, I think that's one thing I learned from you guys, and you guys have, again, part of the reason I was instantly kind of on board once I was there with you guys for 2 days. I saw it, it wasn't, before then you guys were just a podcast. You guys were just two people that,
blah, blah, blah.
Talk a lot, right? Typical guys out there just talking a lot, but actually being in Craig's agency and seeing it happen and knowing you guys did a great job of helping us understand how you got to this point. It wasn't all pretty for you either. And that was really encouraging for me. Is it's not like you guys opened up shop one day and it just all worked for you. You've been through a lot of the same stuff, right? And to have you guys be further down the road and to know, hey, there is a way, and kind of you guys are just further down the road for us, than me, was really, really comforting. And to know, okay, there is a way, so that was really helpful to hear that and to know, okay, I think that's one thing, Jason, you've really I always pick up is you're always hammering that point of like, hey, I don't want to be involved with that, right? I got to get out of the way and let my people do what they're going to do. And I still struggle with that because we're all different, we're all wired differently. I like having my hands involved in some things, and so I always have to fight that urge, and my wife always has to slap my hands and say, get out of that, stop, let them do that. So but that is something I'm still working on for sure.
Yeah, the my way or the highway is it's that'll drive you crazy because I don't now, like it took me a long time to let go of those things, because I can go in there, I can walk in that room that you've been in there, I can go walk there right now, and something that somebody does will drive me crazy. And it's like, you know what, who cares? Because at the end of the day, we're just worried about the result. And as long as they're doing it, as long as they're legal, ethical, and not hurting anybody, then let them do it, because they're gonna, if it doesn't work, they're gonna figure it out. And as long as, they're not doing anything wrong, and that doesn't happen, so it works. Right.
And helping people. I think that's,
helping.
I think that's the one. And I know you instill that in your agency, and I know Josh does too, because that's a big part of like, you have to have a GPS, and you have to instill that in your team. And I think it's like, at the end of the day, this is not rocket science. You're helping solve people's problems. Oh, but we're so expensive. All these stupid details. Who cares? Like, just help this person, listen to them, talk to them. Sometimes people just want to be heard. And if you do that, they're probably willing to pay an extra premium for that. I mean, that's a huge value to a lot of people. I mean, I guess to anybody, being heard means a lot. And I'm sure any dude that's married to somebody knows that their wife wants to be heard. They don't want to hear you try to solve the problem and everything. They just want to know that they're being heard. But I think going through, the agency and the sales process and everything else, just, if you have that other person's best interest and you're just trying to help, like, yeah, ethical and everything else, it'll all work out. It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another question for you. I know that, because for me, it was also something that wasn't done. In fact, I don't think I probably maybe every couple of months ran a meeting at my agency, and now it's every day, if not twice a day. And how big of a change was that for you, and how important has that been to the effectiveness of your team?
That was probably one of the best immediate things we could do to change the course of our agency success.
Right.
Again, when we started the agency, I had all these grand plans of, hey, we're going to meet regularly, we're going to do all that. But like I said earlier, those all went out. All that stuff went out the door when I had to answer a phone to make a sale, or I had to get on the phone myself to do all that stuff. All that stuff went out the door. And I'd always use the excuse, well, we're a small agency, we see each other all day. I don't need to have a meeting. I'd find ways to excuse that. It'd go 3 weeks with no meeting, and I'd be like, it's not a big deal. I've talked to him every day. It's the same thing. It's not. So one of the first things that came out of being with you guys, my first action item was to make sure Monday, we met on a Thursday, Friday at your agency. Come back on Monday, I had already told the whole team, hey, we're going to meet every day starting Monday, get ready. And we started doing it. And it was a little weird at first. I mean, I don't mind talking in front of people. I've run a lot of meetings, but it was a little weird because, well, what are we going to meet about? They knew I was out of the office. They probably expected me to come in and, I don't know, tell them they're all fired or, we're moving, right. Or I don't know. But everybody's at first a little bit, scared about it all. But we just started meeting, and I just like you guys always talk about, I laid out a vision for what I had, where we wanted to go, and some of the things that we're not accomplishing, but where we wanted to go, and the investment that we're going to make into some new systems and new processes. I laid it all out. I painted a picture. I explained why. I told them, what was so great about being with you guys and some of the lessons that I've learned personally. I'm just very transparent and honest about it. And I just told them we're going to keep meeting, and we're not going to meet because, I'm not there to crack the whip. I'm not there to beat down on anybody. I'm not there to even expose anybody. We're going to meet because we're a team. And like we talked about earlier, communication, we can't go in the same direction if we're not talking, and I've heard you guys say it before, if you're in a football team, you don't just everybody line up and everybody does their own thing. That doesn't work. You got to talk about what the play is going to be. So we just started meeting daily. It was, 15 minutes, and sure enough, we'd go 20, 25, 30 minutes, mostly me talking. I had to try to, shut up a little bit and let everybody else talk. But, we started doing that faithfully for a few weeks, and sure enough, surprise, surprise, everybody felt more engaged. Everybody started, owning it. Everybody, it wasn't like day one, everybody just came out of the gates and, made, 100 sales and we hit our goals. No, but little by little, I started seeing improvement, started seeing more engagement, more energy. But yeah, our sales, we, no doubt those 2 months after that, we started seeing sales on a more consistent basis every day, because I think our energy level was better. Everybody came out of that feeling like they were tied to a cause for that day. And so that was really important. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, we don't meet every day right now, just for a variety of reasons. I know, sorry. But what I have done, and I'm very, very purposeful in making sure that I'm communicating with everybody in our team every day about what their goals are, what we're trying to accomplish for that day. So we still get together, but what I do is I'll walk over to a desk and I'll sit down and I'll talk with them. I'll Slack, we use Slack, and I'll sit there and I will just, comment on some things that, hey, we'll just have a sidebar conversation about what they need to do for that day. I'll pump them up from the day before, hey, I heard that call, you did really good on that. Or, hey, we're having some struggles on that. And we'll have a dialogue that way. So I'm way more intentional. I don't just sit at my desk, wait for the end of the day, see what the results were, and then go, okay, good or bad. We're having an ongoing conversation. I'm way more intentional about what's going on with their day every day. So I need to get back on accountability wise. I need to get back on to having these meetings every day.
Yeah.
But because again, we just kind of start going back to our old habits. So
well, I think from a sales coaching standpoint, this is especially the PNC business is so close on almost every transaction, right? Yeah, there's a lot where you're double and the ones where you're way ahead, but the meat of it is close, right? And the message they constantly hear from the prospects, from television, from everywhere is commodity price. It's all price. And what I've noticed is the longer, or if we go a stretch without meeting, which doesn't happen anymore, but when we did, you would hear more often, oh, they were just price focused. Oh, they were just price. You hear it over and well, that one was price focused, that one. And it's like, okay, then the job isn't being done on that call, right? Of course they're price focused because that's how they're taught to buy this. They're taught it's a commodity. So that conversation has to shift, but it doesn't shift unless the sales agent believes it to be true. And they're always going to revert back to that price focus because that's what everything around them is pointing them to. And so that's where I think there's such a huge value to that daily meeting is you're battling against that, right? You have to fight that so you can get them back over here. I mean, you were here, they wrote 22K 2 days in a row. I mean, that's not something that happens all the time. But that happens when they believe because there were 10 other agents here, they're like, wow, they must really be, these guys. And so, but those days psychologically, they were like, we're on fire. Right. Yeah. And I think that, so much of it is psychological.
I think it's also one of the biggest benefits, put aside sales. I just think it's great for the team. They love, they're working next to each other, but again, we get in our own little world. So I think it's just a good, it makes them enjoy their job more. They get to be around people. They get to, they get to share in experiences and talk about what happened the day before. They get, hey, Joseph, you did a great job on this yesterday. They get pumped up in front of their people. So I think it's just good for morale and good team building as well. So yeah.
100%. So you went the distance. What is the number one piece of advice you'd give any insurance agent, either coming into the industry or wanted to kickstart the agency's heart? What would you give? Number one.
Man, there's so many, but I'm just, for today, this is what I will pick. The best part, like what we're doing right now, the other greatest benefit that came out of everything that I've been doing since March, when February, when we got together, is I'm part of a community. We're all out there now on our own, trying to fight this fight on our own every day. Get out of yourself, like your own little world, reach out to other agents, be a part of a community like this, and listen and ask a ton of questions, and don't do this alone. And if you're with a captive like I am, yeah, absolutely. Do everything that the company offers you, all the team stuff that they do in the little market meetings and all that, but get outside of that and go with people that will be real and honest with you about their struggles and what's going on. There's quite a few agents that are, that I'm seeing right now on this call, that, we pick up the phone and call each other all the time. Like, hey, I'm having a basic problem, or, hey man, my mind's not in the right spot. Cause I will tell you, I think that's the greatest challenge that we experience in our business is, it's not even the nuts and bolts. It's not the policies. It's not the insurance business. It's the mind game. I've seen a couple of posts lately of guys that are just struggling with the mentality. They're having success, but everything, it's a challenging business. So you got to have people that are for you. They're going to encourage you when you need it. That are going to pump you up. They're going to tell you, I've been there. I know how it feels. Stay the course. And, you got to have a crew. I'm into endurance running and long distance running. And, if you get into ultra marathons, they have these things called crews. So you go out there, you got to run the 100 miles or whatever it is, but they have crews at these aid stations, and their job is to pump you up. Their job is to keep you going. Their job is to make sure if your foot hurts that they take care of that, get you back on the course and get going. They can't run the race for you. They can't do everything for you, but you need a crew around you at all times to just keep you going, because you will get in your own head and you'll go on a crazy cycle that just will take you nowhere. So get outside of yourself.
Wow. 100%. Love it.
And we can actually take a couple questions. Yeah.
Yeah, live here on the
Live
podcast.
here
Love
on
it.
the podcast for the very first time. It is a groundbreaking day here. We have Dylan has his hand up. If anybody else wants to just do a little hand raise with the little button there, I'm gonna.
If my headset dies, I'll switch it over quickly. So.
Okay,
Cool.
like a pro.
Oh, hey,
Hey.
Hi.
Hey,
I'm
Dylan.
in the same position you were a couple of years back, scratch agency here in Nebraska. My biggest issue is just finding somebody because I signed up. I'm like, oh, tell the dudes like this won't be that bad. I'll start getting calls. Well, now it's like I'm working nonstop because I'm trying to quote, trying to set the appointments, also trying to be like involved in these meetings. Also working with like agency MVP on like the success of using that CRM to the best, and then also everything else with farmers. It's my biggest thing is how do we find some staff? Would you be open to remote staff? I have a lady that's from like California that wants to work for me, but it's like can't really hope that the metrics are correct. From what she sends.
Okay, I'll
Right.
chime in first. I like remote teams, but you need a home base. This is just
Mhm.
my opinion.
Yeah.
And you need to establish the home base first, especially otherwise that's a whole nother element that's going to be added of pain to figure out. Because you're already trying to figure out, like you said, so many different things. So I would say in office. I would also say one of I think the hardest things early on is just expenses, right? Things cost money. You know what I mean? Either you're going to exchange money for time. There's a finite amount of time. And it sounds like your time is pretty much extended. So I would leverage money. If you have to take out a loan, take out a loan, but like a service like Team Hired, awesome. We'll get you people lined up for your hiring. And then in that case, then you could just figure out questions that you want to ask. What are the important values that you have as an agency and characteristics? And then so when they line up those people for you, you can weed through them faster. It's kind of like this, now that you're quoting a ton, right? You can probably weed out certain people faster. Like you can spot things better because of the volume. And I think that when you hire like that, where you got a bunch of people lined up and you do a bunch of interviews all together, you can pretty much see the diamonds and gems within those people. It makes it a lot easier than just one at a time. That's where like a Team Hired. What do you think, Josh?
No, I think to your point, I would say my only thing would be about remote is I think it's really hard to develop culture and get somebody really bought in on what you're doing. I mean, if you have to do it in the short term because that's your only option, it might be better. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the best model, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But I would say ideally, you've got to have a home base. You got to be like we were talking about with the meetings. You've got to have people that are going to be connected to you every day. So if they can't be a part of the team and they don't feel like they're a part of the team, I mean, we have telemarketers through teledudes, and one of the biggest downsides of that is they're in the Philippines, right? But we have done everything we can to create an atmosphere where she's part of our team, and once we did that, her results have taken off. So you have to have that culture. You have to have that sense of team. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of independent people out there that aren't bought in, and you can't build a solid agency or a solid business around that long term, I don't think.
Right.
So that's just
You'll have incredible turnover. And I mean, I had it for years and years, turnover, because it was like interview one, hire them. They last until I didn't like them or they washed out, whatever. And just rinse, wash, repeat. The way to approach and think about hiring is it's the same as your sales funnel. It's there's a certain, you have to talk to 60 people. You have to line up 60 people to get 20 to show up, 20 to show up to get one that is actually good. And most agents, interview one or two or three people and they pick one of them. And it's like, you're not finding the right people that way. That's why to what both of them said, I mean, somebody like Team Hired, I've had tremendous success building a team that these two guys have both seen, and Brandon, and that I mean, I haven't had turnover. I haven't had turnover in a year. Like it's the same team, and there's a lot to it. But we built the culture. With remote, I have one guy that is remote, but I would not start it that way. That's like an add-on.
That's an add-on. Yeah, exactly.
I had 3 people I offered jobs to, and they just had to get licensed. And talked for a few weeks and they were telling us going good, working on it. And then one day,
Yeah.
like, it's a week out till they're supposed to start, and all of a sudden
And then
they just disappear.
Right. Yeah.
And then my girlfriend might be starting with me soon, but it's like, I don't want to go down, like what Josh and them did with no income from both of us, really, just everything's being put into this company. Cause now I've been sitting here, and before this, like, I felt like I was doing nothing with my leads. And now it's like, okay, now my leads are into the funnel. And then now I'm just trying to figure out, like, the 20 I'm getting daily, do I call those myself, or do I just straight up hand them right to the marketer and just have her call immediately on those too?
I mean, I have my teledudettes are on all of everything fresh.
Okay.
And I've tested it both ways. No difference. I mean, cause I just look at straight at the cost per sale. The cost per sale is just as good or better when the front end of the funnel is them, because they're sifting through them. They're finding the contacts, right? Those 20 leads, you're only going to talk to 2 of them today. So
yeah, my cost per sale right now, when I just factored it with my lead vendor recently, was like 172 and like 30 cents or something.
Over
right
how
now,
long?
Now just over this last photo cycle, because us farmers are weird.
Yeah.
Ours ends here in 2 days.
Yeah. Well, and
But then
that's
I was
pretty
looking
good.
at it,
If you're under $200.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at like 80 quotes though, so that's my issue. It's just not the volume's just not there. So I'm hoping over this next month that volume just picks up.
Mm-hmm.
To my point, or to our point earlier, you're talking about whether or not you should take the calls or let them do it. I mean, it's to the same thing I was talking about earlier. If you do it, that's fine. You'll probably have more success today, but you're going to hurt yourself in the long run. You've got to get to, I mean, that it's proven that you're only going to be able to grow and scale if you have other people doing it for you. And as long as you're always the solution, you're going to have the same conversation 6 months from now. So I think you've got to find a way to rely on your telemarketing team and other people to really to work that out for you. And it's going to, you might suffer in the short term, but I promise you it's proven. Look at Jason, look at Craig, look at all these other guys that are further down the road than all of us. It's the only way to grow, and it's the only way to scale so that you actually have a quality of life, and your business is going to be way better for it. So you've got to find a way to just trust the system. And I've done it. I've had some stuff where we were doing pretty well, managing it more in-house. But once I started just relying on the system and doing that, we've been fine. I mean, there hasn't really been a big drop off. So I think you just got to trust it and go for it.
And
I would add, I need some producers.
I would add, so look at kind of like what we said earlier, look at you said there's a few people that you've lined up that were going to come into the agency. Just just fill that pipeline, fill it so much that there's no, like, you're going to be terrified if everybody works out. You know what I mean? It's better to have that problem than the other problem. So just go all in, fill that pipeline, get a ton of people that want, and continue that every day. When I did my scratch agency, we did an in-house process, and we did it a lot like we did with the teledudes. And it was the same process. And it was every day lined up. I had to line up so many interviews a day because we knew that they'd fall off. And then, you know what I mean? And we just kept doing it. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of booked interviews. And then we filled all the seats at the end of it. But just look at it like that. It's the same process. Just get those leads, get them to, agree to being a part of the agency, try to get them licensed. And even though that you have 3 people and you only want 1, get 4 more people that say yes to it. And then you won't have to worry about your girlfriend or anything.
And if they all show up, then figure out how to pay them. And guess what? You're going to get results.
It's a good problem. Yeah.
It's the best problem ever. It's been my experience. They don't all show up. It just doesn't happen.
I'm just trying to get away from, like you guys said, wearing all the hats, because it's like you can't successfully run a business if you're doing everything. I think Bill kind of is in the same spot as me here locally. He actually is like 15-minute drive from me. We had a meeting the other day with another local farmers agent, and I mentioned you guys and sent a link to our area rep guy, and here's Bill today.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
You pool resources. There's ways to share. You can get creative. Jason and I did a lot of that in the beginning when we opened Scratch right near at the same time. And, you got to find a buddy and bounce stuff off of. And that's also what's so great about this community is, you've got a whole bunch of buddies here. So.
Oh yeah,
totally.
Thanks.
My
Dylan.
issue
That's awesome.
is I just started this and I'm going on vacation for a week Friday.
Oh boy.
Would you guys still
Sound
would
like
you still
Mr.
have her
Craig.
call and set appointments? Sorry.
I've literally been signed up for about an hour. So yeah, no kidding. I mean, it was, I literally got off the phone with Haley like 25 minutes before this started. So
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Well,
Awesome.
Welcome,
Well,
Bill.
welcome.
We love it.
Welcome. And then Ryan has his hand up. Let's jump over there. Thanks, Bill and Dylan. Asked to unmute. Is Ryan there?
How about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. How's it going?
How's it going, you guys? And
Awesome.
Jason, fellow Southern Californian, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be a part of the team. I'm down here in Laguna Niguel, so not too far away from you, man.
Nice. Love it. Down there.
Nice. I love it there.
Yes. So hey, we got rolling, of course, on Teledudes officially on Monday, which our amount of transfers we had was just absolutely phenomenal. The last 48 hours, and we are stoked and ready to go. I did ask for my primary sales producer, Sandy. He had some questions. Do you guys have a suggestion? Because, of course, we do get a lot of these prospects that are calling in because, of course, our telemarketer was not able to connect with them, and they're calling us back on our sales-only line. For when the prospects call back, do you recommend setting up a voicemail at all, or would you avoid that at all costs? Because I'm kind of worried about the
Avoid
whole.
it. We just you get a better result if you just they'll call back. If they've called once, they're going to call back again because you're going to
Okay, and avoid the voice.
Yeah,
avoid the voicemail, because if they hear Allstate Insurance, then done. I think they're not calling again. Correct at that point.
We're gonna have to do so many cuts.
Yeah.
Can't say the A word on here, but yeah, I would just have no. You don't need a voicemail.
Okay, so
are you
you
not
can
able to
try
take
it
the
both.
calls?
You could try both of those. What was that, Josh?
Are you not able to answer the calls? Is that what you're saying? Like your people are busy, or are you just
Maybe they can't get to you.
No. So the telemarketers, of course, are not our telemarketers not leaving voicemail. So of course, randomly throughout the day, basically because they're using our sales only line. So we're getting the prospects that are calling back the sales only line, wondering, well, who the heck is calling me? Of course, from this unknown number that's not leaving a voicemail. So of course, we're picking it up and we're immediately trying to drill in and say, hey, let's go ahead and get you started on a quote. And then sometimes, of course, if it doesn't have to get picked up, obviously avoid the whole voicemail aspect, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could test it both ways too. You never know what's going to work the best. And that's just, I mean, we've tested every different possible way. For us, it's better if there isn't. And they just answer. They're like, hello. Like they don't say, it's just hello. How you doing?
And then,
Jim?
Do you guys have any recommended TalkPass or scripts that you recommend, not for the actual transfers, but of course, when those prospects call back wondering who the heck is calling me, what should I have my staff saying?
Yeah.
Of course,
Hello.
what's the...
Hello. Hey, Dave. How you doing? Awkward
And if
pause.
they don't know who's calling?
Then identify yourself.
They'll ask. They ask. It's we used to overcomplicate it. We used to try to be all fancy with it. Hi, this is the Phanco group. How can I help you? And when you have this little script, didn't work. So all we do now, their name pops up, depending on what system you have. I don't know, but in our world, we know who's calling back in. We can see their name and their number. So we'll just call and go, hey, this is Josh. Hey, is this Justin? Hey, how you doing, Justin? Right. And they love hearing their name. So we always drop their name if we can see it. Always drop their name, and then they go, yeah, this is Justin. Who's this? You're like, oh, hey, it's Josh. I was just giving you a call. Thank you so much for calling us back. We're so excited to get a hold of you. And just get Brandon, man, if you could get Brandon to answer your phones, these guys will talk to you for the next 3 minutes. But have his energy. You got to train him to have that energy. Like, Justin, man, it's so good to talk to you, man. Thanks so much. Like we've just been so eager to get a hold of you. It looks like we got information here about your quote. Or, about your auto insurance. I've got everything pretty much ready to go. I just need to verify some stuff, and you just go right into it. And they if they don't want to talk to you, they'll hang up. Who cares? We actually made a sale yesterday on a callback exactly that way.
And think about what Josh did. Nobody wants this quote, right? Nobody's interested in getting an insurance quote. It's the worst thing. It's like the dentist. So that call comes, the person is like, wait, who is this? But Josh is so cool and he has so much energy. The guy's at least giving him a chance. And then when the dreaded insurance conversation topic comes up, now he's like, dang it. But this guy's all right. Okay, I'll stay on. Right. It's either that or they hang up. And I think that all you want to do is increase your chances, increase your probability on every single interaction. And that's the whole point of this, right? It's numbers. And so if you're doing large volume and you can increase your probability here, it's like inside baseball, right? We're just trying to increase those numbers based on the data. And so I love that, Josh. It's great.
Yeah, I love callbacks. I mean, at first I kind of looked at it as like, oh, but then I started thinking about it. Wait, these people are they got a missed call and they took enough time to call it back. Yeah. They're curious.
It's crazy.
They either are waiting for you. They're trying to get they're thinking it's somebody that's going to call them for business. We get a lot of calls from landscapers back. They think that somebody's calling them to get their their lawn mowed or whatever it might be. So they tend to always call back. But man, if these people took the time to call you back, that is the guy you want to get on the phone, and you better bring energy, because I'm telling you, you'll get a pretty good response back if you do it. So those are great ones. Train
Almost
your people
too
to
much.
answer that phone.
Little over the top.
Thanks, man. That's gold. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I would challenge you to do this. Have fun with this. So we talk about meetings, right? I would hold a meeting within the next 30 minutes or whenever they're back from lunch. Have a meeting and say, hey guys, let's approach this. So basically the two things: you don't want to sound like a salesperson. You don't want to sound like a telemarketer. You want to sound like their buddy. So write out a script with them. Say, hey, how can we not sound like a telemarketer, not sound like a salesperson when they call us back, and start writing it out. Have fun with it. Have your team kind of work it in, get that script going, and then have everybody memorize it. It'll probably be like 2 lines or whatever. And then just teach them the transition of going right into the quote without asking for it. Don't ever ask for the quote, just go right into it. But those few lines, have them help you come up with it. Something that sounds like it's like their friends or however they talk to their friends. And then, hit the phones hard, and then have a little contest with them. Hey man, whoever can get a quote, whoever can get 2 quotes for the rest of the day, I'll give you, $20 or whatever, something like that. And I bet you could kickstart those callbacks today.
I like it, Jason. Thank you, man.
You got it,
Ryan. I don't know if you went into the PPC, the Peak Performance Challenge, but there's a ton of that stuff in there in the member site that you can grab.
I have not had a chance to yet, but that's on the member site you were saying.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's tons
all
of
the gold.
Yeah.
The gold. So
cool.
Right on.
Well, cool. We've gone the distance, Mr.
Gone
Jason.
the distance. Yes. Love it.
So,
is there any final last minute questions? Or we'll just it is Mr. Craig is hungry.
One, if you got it.
Yes. What's up, Bill?
Wild Bill.
Yes. Sorry, my assistant just interrupted me as you start talking to me. Okay, so I've started off with the fire burner.
Yes, the phone system.
Phone burner system. So when you guys are talking, when you get that callback, you guys are using the ricochet system, and that callback's telling you which one of those people is calling you back. And I'm assuming the phone burner system does not do that, correct?
No, but it doesn't matter. So
Landon's over there going.
So here's the thing: is workshop it. Just like I said with Ryan, I would do the same thing. Workshop it. So that's the challenge, right? Is that you don't know their name. Hey, let me double check. Who's this? Did you call me? Yeah, let me check. Who's this? Oh, Ryan. Oh, hey, Ryan, how's it going? Oh, I know our office was trying to get a hold of you. So glad that you took the time, man. And then go into it or whatever. But I'd workshop that a little bit. I'm sure you could come up with something fire to.
Something will work.
Yeah.
But tonality, I'm telling you, tonality is the base of all of it. If you're upbeat,
Yep. And not sounding like a telemarketer or a salesperson. So tonality,
right?
But not sound like
hi. This is hello. Who's this?
Oh, so I got to change my entire damn voice. That's what you're telling me.
It's just but you can do it, right? Like it's just, hey, how you doing? And they're like, whoa, this guy. Like, I mean,
Bill, who's your best friend?
Craig's my best friend now, I suppose.
Yeah.
Who calls you and what do they, what do you guys talk about? What gets you guys excited? Like, what would
Guns and motorcycles.
Perfect.
there you go.
So, dude, hey, Bill, I just got a new Smith & Wesson. You got to check it out. Like, what would you
Bill,
say?
are those at the same time, guns and motorcycles, or are those like two different
At the
hobbies?
same time.
Like
Mad Max.
when this is the Wild West here in Nebraska, man. You go 20 miles west of where I'm sitting right now. It's no man's land.
Josh sent a message at, he talked a little bit about it at Ignite, and it just like, it just stayed with me. This sales guy that called his office, and the guy was just like the most enthusiastic person that he ever talked to. And as agents, like if you're answering the phone, I know everybody here, because when I used to answer the phone all day long, right? Somebody's trying to call and sell you something. And this guy stuck out, and he got through the gatekeeper, got to you.
He didn't even have the right name. He called me by the wrong name, but I loved his energy so much. And then he called back and he did the same thing with somebody else in our office, but we still talk about that guy.
I know we're going way over, but Josh, can you tell the story? Cause I think that story is money.
Yeah. So
the
hopefully my headset
distance
doesn't die again. I'll plug in real quick if it does, cause this is worth it. So I get a call on my cell phone in my office, right? So I'm sitting there, I get a call, I answer it, like, my little monotone voice, hello, this is Josh. It's like, he didn't even listen. He's like, Russ, hey, how are you? And I'm like, Russ, that happened to be that was one of our producers at the time. He's like, Russ, how are you? And I'm like, fine, but this isn't Russ. He's like, wait, what? This isn't Russ? I'm like, no. I'm like, who is this? This is Josh. I'm like, are you looking for Russ? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for Russ. And he's just super excited. I mean, it was the happiest guy in the world. And anyway, long story short, by the time we figured it out, he was trying to call one of our producers to try to funnel life insurance sales to him. So he was some guy that was selling a service where you could get life sales funneled into his agency and they would make money. So he was calling one of our guys off a lead list, but his energy level was so high that we had a fun time on the phone call. And I told him, well, it's actually funny. I'm his boss. And, he'd probably be a little alarmed if he knew that you were calling him and all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, get off the phone call, because he obviously wasn't looking for me. No more than 30 seconds later, he calls my wife's cell phone. She's literally 5 feet away from me right now, and I can hear it through the phone. She answers the phone. He goes, Russ, hey, how are you? And she goes, who is this? And she goes through the whole story, and she goes, well, funny enough, you just called my husband, and he's sitting right across from the way from me. And anyway, we had a good old time. He was laughing. We were laughing. He ended up calling me back like a few minutes later and just like, hey, I just want to apologize. I must have had my information wrong. I told him, hey, it didn't matter, man. You made our day. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. You're going to be really, really successful in what you're doing. It was just awesome. I mean, to this day, and that was like an absolute lesson to me. Your energy is all that matters. He didn't even have my name right. I wanted to talk to the guy. So it was so cool. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
People love it. They love it.
I got one last thing in closing. Josh, who's the lady behind you?
Oh, can you hear me? That's my daughter. She's here for summer school. So yeah, that's my daughter. We're a family agency. So
Okay. Well, everybody wave at her.
Yeah. There you go. There she goes.
I was like,
My
oh,
teenage
yeah,
daughter.
I'm just sitting back there forever.
Well,
I actually got to go sell her a policy. So let me go.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, thank you for jumping on and doing this interesting methodology of recording the show. You're all going to be on it permanently. So congratulations. And thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Huge.
Let me just say this too.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome, and we're all grateful to you guys. You don't get told that enough. So we just appreciate all the work that you guys do all the time. Thank you.
Oh man, you're the
What a
best.
guy. He is
I'm going to
the
keep
best.
you around.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to clip that out. I'm going to send that to my wife.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
she's
a
the hero
good
about me.
idea. Because she's not going to listen to this.
No, she will.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you.
Well, thank
and
you, guys.
we'll catch you on the next Wednesday. I'll wrap it now.